Hey everybody, it's Chris with Drop Dice. So we are back again with the City Challenge. This is part 3, Factions, and we're just going to jump right into this real quick here. Alright, so I went ahead and we're going to skip the step of showing you guys the breakdown list. By now you should be familiar with it, and we're just going to dive right in and kind of talk about some of the progress that's happened. This is the Google document again. Which will be linked in the description of this video, along with a book that I think would be very helpful for anyone who's looking to build some factions within their own city. And that is Be a Better Faction Master by the guys over at Absolute Tabletop. Now, I will say that the book is one of their thinner ones out of the supplements that they've put out, and I think it's got a good step in the right direction, but I look at it more for how they do the format of their factions, and let me show you real quick what I took from that and how I applied that to my games. So again, everything that we talked about before, as you guys will see as I scroll down here, they've added quite a bit more. I added to the markets. The storehouse district is also filled out, but we'll get to those in another video, and I am up to 12 NPCs total now out of my 30. So here are the factions, and the factions break down into the main header that talks about, this being the factions, what those factions are, or what they are and what they're called, I should say. So, like the Jade Serpents, they are a religious faction, but they are also a criminal syndicate. It kind of gives me an idea of how I should play them, just as a quick note there. I've got their sigil, which was kind of their symbol, and in L5R it might be referred to as a mon, what their letters would be sealed with. And so the Jade Serpents will have a sigil that may be confused for perhaps a Naga sigil, which a Naga is kind of a circle, and then it creates a second loop that is the head and the tail of a serpent, with the tail of the serpent inside the head's mouth. This one instead is just a full circle. Someone who is not knowledgeable enough may not know the difference between the two. The leader is Oyaban Ichida, who is, again, a head of a criminal organization. That will be his official, criminal name. I may have a separate name for him as far as what the people will meet him as, and maybe that'll be just his, calling card name. He is a former Shugenja that is no longer able to communicate with the kami, and this is actually directly from the Be a Better Game Master supplement. It talks about a mage who is no longer able to cast spells, and so I took that and I spun it a little bit and made it more L5R like, and it's now a former Shugenja who no longer has the capability to communicate with kami, which means he can't cast spells, and instead he's turned to find a new faith, which is the Jade God, which is a Gaijin god that they've found here, or at least what he believes to be a god. That may come out as something else later on, but that gives me a great at least one or two adventures from what is the Jade God. Can we defeat the Jade God if it's something that needs to be defeated? So it'll be very interesting for the players to be able to interact with. I again have his description here, and now because he is a criminal, he does have infamy, which is an L5R stat thing. So if you are planning to do this for your own games and it's not L5R, this probably doesn't matter to you. But basically, infamy is the opposite of glory. Essentially, glory is a notable good thing. Like, you receive glory for skirmishes, large battles that you have won, and it's looked at as a positive light. Infamy is a negative light thing. Like, a person with an infamy of 4 is probably somebody who's known for murdering people or being extra vile inside their political disagreements and things like that. Someone that would be known for evil tendencies, that sort of thing. And then the background is formed from remnants of a disseminated army legion, soldiers of faith. So this was, well, really the remnants of disseminated army legion was exactly verbatim from the book. But I added this soldiers of faith thing because I have this idea of him no longer being able to communicate. He's a Shugenja. Perhaps these are cultists that have had faith but never saw their prayers to the kami answered because they're not Shugenja. They don't have that direct interaction. So in D&D terms, perhaps these people are laymen of the church that never had real powers that had prayed and prayed and prayed, and finally this man who used to be a priest that could channel the power of the gods, essentially, is stripped of his power, and now they're following him to find this new god, this new power, and they've become kind of a cult. That is essentially what I've built in kind of a traditional European D&D kind of feel. So the idea, the sigil, the leader, the motivation, and background are all purely from the Be a Better Faction Master. Unfortunately, a lot of that is targeted directly towards standard European adventures, so a lot of it I did change around. That one is probably the closest to what that book had. The next one is 1,000 Notes, which is a trade syndicate, and its sigil is the kanji for 1,000, and you guys kind of see the pattern that's going here. I've got the leader here, and I loved there was this one inside the book that talked about a dwarf that smelled of incense, and I really loved that. So she is a Crab Clan trader who smells of incense, and she runs a tea house that is referred to as the Thousand Petals Tea House, which kind of goes back to the fact that she runs the 1,000 Notes, and notes being a trade note. It's kind of a fun name, and that's kind of the key with L5R, is alliteration is key whenever you are speaking or naming things, so it's a lot of fun with that. And I got to fit in my 1,000 Petals idea that I had inside the last video. And then it goes on to talk about who she is and all that, and then her motivation here is, of course, to gain control of the city's trade, and it's founded by scheming loan brokers. Again, that's another thing directly from Be a Better Faction Master. Now, these other two I wrote without the book in hand, but I took some ideas that were similar to what the book presented. This one is the Guiding Hand. It's another religious faction. It's an open hand with the fingers pointed down, so it would look like a palm like this, almost. And it is actually founded by Tanbo Kao, who's a diviner who's seen the end of a great power. What he believes is that the Anu family are doomed, and that he's seeking to prevent she is seeking to prevent the fall of the Anu family in Toshi, Jeido no Kawa. And the background of this group is they're loyalist Etta and Henin, mostly servants to the household, families that have been sworn for generations to serve the Anu family, that are almost, I shouldn't say religious, I should probably say that this is a spiritual faction, because in Rukagon they do separate that a little bit. Religion and spirituality are a little different, and we're talking about divining and fate here, so that's a little bit more of a spiritual activity. And then the last one is the Quiet Storm, which has a sigil of a diving dragon turtle, and this is Oyabon Izumi, who is a female, and this is actually should not be here. I need to come up with a new tagline for her, which I'll do after this video, because that's just a copy and paste error right there. And she is a beautiful woman, young woman that has come to the town, and the background is unknown to the unknown. The group is too new for much to be known about them, and I wanted that to be kind of the case at the start of this game. They are going to be major active players inside the community, and I want the players to not have a whole lot of information about this particular faction, but their motivations are going to be very clear. They wish to destroy the Anu family and the Jade Serpents, and then capture control of the city. The Quiet Storm has a lot on their plate and big plans for the future, and what does that mean for the city itself? Toshi, Jeido no Kawa could fall without the players' interaction to the Quiet Storm or any one of these other factions. Ultimately, they will act as the players and seek out their own goals, and having these motivations outlined will give you a direct, easy way to decide, okay, what do I want the Jade Serpents to do this game? What will their purpose be? Will the players interact with them? If they do, how does that change the relationship with the Jade Serpents? This is all stuff that I can notate in my GM section once the game starts, but this gives me kind of a launching point, and this gives me a great idea of where I should go or what kind of adventure seeds I should come up with. So those are 4 of the factions for the city here. That's going to be it for this video. As always, make sure you comment, share, like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Get them on board with the city project. If you've done the city project or doing it at the same time as this video or after these videos are made, let me know how your cities are going. I'd love to hear about it. And as always, guys, I will see you at the gaming table.